Hello and welcome. You're about to watch the video Low Mood Part 2 Strategies to Improve Mood. And this is part of the Wellbeing Education Resilience Programme. We would like to highlight the Face COVID video by Russ Harris. If you haven't already seen it, please take 5 minutes to watch as it gives a great overview of how to support wellbeing as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. You can click directly on the link when viewing this presentation in slideshow mode. Here you can see what will be covered in this presentation. If you see the thought bubble symbol, it will mean there is an activity for you to have a go at should you wish to. Simply pause the video and give it a go. Remember to always be kind to yourself when watching these video presentations. Be aware of how you're feeling throughout, and should you need to, take a break or check in with a friend. There are also some suggestions on the last slides for places you can go if you would like to seek further support. For this presentation, it will be helpful for you to have some understanding of the concepts highlighted in this slide. If you are not familiar with any of them, you can find them in the concept index.
So how can we support those with low mood and work on preventing this happening in further times? It's important to remember that throughout these slides about understanding low mood, you will gain some information about how to manage it. You will gain some resources and ideas to help support that. Listed here are just a few things that, how we can help those that are suffering with low mood. And one of the main things to remember is for us to be mindful and understanding of someone with low mood, to recognise it and identify it. So we may need to look at what we have here on the list and just going through them, understanding our emotions and being able to emotion coach throughout, which is something we have discussed in these programs. Being mindful, so giving someone the time and space. Exercise, as we know, is a huge part of lifting our mood, and looking at our 5 ways to well-being, which we have discussed throughout this program. Building someone's self-esteem can lift their mood. So sometimes just by giving a daily message of, you're doing really great and fantastic, just recognising the positives in people and being mindful to share that. Challenging sometimes our thinking errors, but this is about looking at how we work through things in our minds and how we need to manage. Looking at our emotional literacy, so sometimes how we word things, we may come across wrong and it may often impact on those that have a low mood in a negative way. Look at the awe and the wonder, and often, as we said before about the importance of having fun, we often forget to look at all the great things and the wonderful things that are happening around us. It's important to also encourage everyday activities. And I think, as we've said, keep these things small. Sometimes these activities can just be a 5-minute. We can live healthy by eating healthy. Think about how our sleep pattern is. Think about staying connected socially, and for those to stay connected to that build up our mood. Sometimes we stay connected with the wrong people at the wrong time. So think about who you want to stay connected with. Look at having a motivational diary, and in that diary, put down the positives. We are all very good at looking at our negatives, but put down the positives that have happened in that day, and the thing we get up, that is a positive. Have a hope box, so that might be things you'll write down that you're hopeful for, and again, make it realistic. It might be hopeful that you'll be able to go out and exercise for more than 5 minutes. The most important thing to remember is stay mindful, to look, to listen, and to link things together. To understand that someone's low mood, they may be acting out, they may have a certain behaviour, but that may be because they have a low mood. And we need to work on helping to prevent and work forward for those.
When we're looking at boosting self-esteem, this isn't something that's a quick or easy fix. It's something that can be a lifelong endeavour for some people, especially if they have very deeply ingrained negative beliefs about themselves. This is something that the School Wellbeing Service offer as a training programme. If you're interested, you can talk to your mental health lead. But if you're trying to think generally of things you can do to try and boost a young person's self-esteem, some of the most important things are instilling the following messages: that we are all worthy and equal, that perfection doesn't exist, that mistakes and weaknesses do not equal failure, that it's okay to be different, that who we are is not a problem, that we don't know what other people are thinking, that other people's opinions are not facts, that we can't please everyone all of the time. The past doesn't have to equal the present or the future. We need to see the bigger picture of ourselves. We must be true to our real selves, and that knowing our values, aspirations, and the things you are grateful for will help you to be the real you.
Incorporating the 5 ways to well-being in our life and being aware of them can also help improve our mood and overall well-being. So these are take notice, give, be active, connect, and keep learning. For more information on these, please feel free to head over towards the concept index.
One of the most important things we can do for our young people, especially from a young age, is build their emotional literacy. This is understanding what emotions are, the names of emotions, what they look like, feel like, different situations we might feel them in, and understanding how to communicate how they are feeling to other people. If they're able to understand what they're feeling and why, and that actually it's okay, and how to communicate this to people, they're much more likely to be resilient, they're going to be able to regulate, and they're going to be able to understand that our emotions are okay, and as a result, less likely to stay in them. There are some great resources on the Twinkle website. As you can see, there's a link at the bottom of this slide. Feel free to have a look, and you can hopefully find some great emotional literacy activities you can do with your class.
One of the things we have spoken about throughout the programme is emotion coaching. And this is one of the ideas to help lift our low mood and understand our low mood and those around us. So the way to look at this is to think about how to connect and empathise with your young person, either your child or someone you're working with. So by doing that, we need to actually think about putting ourselves in their shoes and thinking about why they are the way they are. And often that's the hardest thing to do because we tend to make a judgment. So think about number one, think about connecting and empathising with that person. Think about labelling the emotions and validating them. So by saying, you look sad. Is it that you feel sad? Making it clear so that they're understanding what you're seeing. Help to work through that and help them to understand what their emotions are. Set boundaries if needed is step 3, and it's always important to be very, very clear on this. No matter what is happening, it's always clear to have a boundary so that everybody knows where they're at. And to think about how we can problem solve, how we can move forward in this way. But if things are struggling when you get to step 3 and 4, go back to step 1. Just go back to the basics again and think about connecting and empathising and labelling and validating their emotions. Remember, these steps only work if you use them in that order. If you want to find out a little bit more information as well, we can refer to the concept index where there is a lot more information on this. But the basics are step 1 and 2 need to work before you can move on to do 3 and 4.
The next strategy we'd like to discuss with you is the look, listen, link strategy as part of psychologically informed first aid. The idea behind this strategy is that you'll look for signs of distress. When you think you may have noticed this in somebody, you'll have a conversation with them and really use your active listening skills. It might be a really short conversation, or it could be a long one. You'll show empathy and compassion. You'll build understanding and make sure that you are being kind. From here, you will link them to sources of support, and remember there are community activities like clubs, faith groups, physical activities, and lots of online resources. We have a separate video that discusses this in much further detail. So if this is something that you think will be helpful to you or you have some interest in, please do take a look at that. You can also find more information on active listening in the Concept Index.
We've spoken before about the importance of talking and how we can help somebody by doing this. Again, this is one of the techniques to think about, that, when we talk and offload what we're feeling and expressing how we're feeling, it alleviates a lot of our mood, and especially low mood. Also, when we think about our thoughts, that helps to express how we feel, and we can move forward in ways we can problem solve. So think about having a social connection. And again, as we shared before, the importance of picking the right social connection to help somebody to lift your mood or lift the mood of others. We've discussed before about how to be mindful, and this is often about us living in the moment and just stopping for sometimes to just think and pause and understand what we need and what we're feeling at that time. This helps to lift low mood, because often once we think about how we are and where we're at, we're able to understand why we feel the way we do. There's some different ways here that you can practice being mindful about understanding our bodies, and that might be just stopping for a moment, closing our eyes, breathing, thinking about where we're at, thinking about the different senses. And often, if we're feeling in a low mood, when we focus on another sense, and that might be, what can I smell, what can I taste, it takes us away from feeling about a low mood, because that's how our brain works. Think about how we breathe. There's different techniques, and these are different techniques that we would have gone throughout, and observe things that are around you. Think about how you can distract yourself in different ways. But the main key to remember through this is to be mindful and understand where you're at and what you need.
As explained in the previous slide, breathing techniques are fantastic for part of your mindfulness practice. They bring you back to the here and now and away from those negative thoughts that start the low mood cycle and keep that cycle going. So they're a great way to try and break that cycle, and they calm our stress response. The examples we have here are very good for young people because they can be quite practical. We have the eternity.
So thinking of the first step in those 5 steps that
Exercise and physical activity are fantastic for all sorts of mental health struggles. They can be preventative as well as really working well to help you get out of a state of low mood or other forms of mental health difficulties. One of the reasons this is so good is because when your stress response is firing, it produces lots of adrenaline and other hormones that are there to prepare our body for fighting, running away, or hiding, or doing whatever we might need to do in situations where we feel threatened. And what happens is the adrenaline just stays in our body if we're not using it. So physical exercise is fantastic for getting rid of that adrenaline, burning it off. It also produces serotonin and lots of other feel-good hormones. So exercise, physical activity doesn't have to be a run or a sport or going for a bike ride. It could be something as simple as doing the housework or standing up to take a walk around the house when you might otherwise be sitting down.
We've shared before about the importance of us having fun and just enjoying ourselves. Often we forget this when we're struggling with low moods or anxiety or stresses. We forget the little things that make us laugh and that we enjoy. And this goes back to where we were talking about being mindful. If we're mindful of how we're feeling, it helps us to understand the importance to ensure that we actually do have time every day to have a little bit of fun and enjoyment, and think about increasing how we feel positive around ourselves, around others. Just enjoy those little bits of making you laugh, making you have fun. Be mindful of how you do that and what you've done before to have fun and enjoy yourselves.
Another way to support a person with low mood is to undertake an intervention called behaviour activation. And this is explained more fully in the concept index, where you will be taken through the whole process of how to move with somebody through a process of identifying the different things that will help them and making a plan with them in terms of running the behaviour activation. But here we'll just briefly explain what it is. So when you are feeling low mood, you become quite stuck sometimes in a loop where you don't really feel like doing things, so then you stop doing things. And if you stop doing things that you love doing, then you're not doing much, you don't have much to talk about, you get less out of life, you feel less fulfilled, and then that can kind of maintain your feeling of being in low mood. So what behaviour activation does is it shifts us from the stopping and doing things aspect of that loop, and it tries to activate us. Rather than stopping doing things, it encourages us to do more of the things that really matter to us. And if we do things that matter to us, things that reflect our values in life, things that reflect activities that bring us closer to people that are helpful to us, then that makes us to feel better, it improves our mood, it helps us to feel more valued, it helps us to feel more purpose in our life, it helps us to get out of life more, it will help us become physically active, which we know is a great benefit for our impacting on our mood. And so this shifts us to a much better loop and cycle of being active, being connected, but it's not just about expecting someone to say, oh, come on, let's get up and go for a walk, let's get up and be active, let's get up and jump around. It's not so much about being active, so much as really focusing on activities that matter. So it's about trying to get back in touch with what things are important to us, what things are our values that we hold dear to us, what kinds of things matter to us, what kinds of things are important, who is important to us, and why are they important, and is there a way in which we can connect more with those things and with those people. And that is behaviour activation. And if you're interested in that, as I said, please do visit the concept index, where there is a whole set of slides that talk you through some different ways in which you can support people using this approach.
We've spoken about living healthily and the importance of doing this. We all know that this is something we need to do, but often when we're struggling with a low mood or anxiety or stresses, we forget about the basics of actually eating well, taking regular exercise, thinking about our routine of sleep and how much sleep we get. We have to think about going back to the basics and understanding the importance of living healthy. It doesn't have to be a huge task. We can do this every day. Just make it simple. Just think about how we eat, how we exercise, how we sleep. Going back to, as I've said before, being mindful and understanding the importance of doing all these things, because all these things will help to lift a low mood.
When we experience low mood, there's quite often a risk of our thoughts ruminating. This means that we continue on with those thoughts and we let them linger and we let the feelings linger. This can increase our low mood and keep it going on for a longer period of time. So what we need to do in this instance is accept how we're feeling and name it. By naming our feelings, we can automatically calm it slightly. You can look at some videos by Dan Siegel called Name It to Tame It. You can find these on YouTube. So what we need to do is name our emotion and then do something to distract ourselves to move on from it. By doing this, we're accepting that it's okay to feel the way we do, and we accept it and then we move on.
Journaling positive memories and thoughts is a really good way to help us practice positive thinking. And it's also really good to have a look back and reflect on what you've written in those times when we are feeling low, as it can help improve our mood. A hope box is something that you can use if you're feeling upset or quite low. So the idea behind this is that you fill it with things that can help you feel better. So whether it's something with a smell that brings back fond memories, any achievements such as medals, items associated with happy memories, any photos of any happy memories, some activities such as colouring, or having some sensory items in there as well. Whatever it is, which is quite individualistic for you, which makes you feel happy, then you can put it in your hope box.